Hey everyone, this is Naturalist James Anderson from the Marion County Park District, and welcome to another episode of Marion's Green Acres. Today I'm here at the Beaver Wildlife Area, and I'll explain here a little bit where this place is located. But this is probably one of my most favorite spots during the summertime. I know last year I showed a lot of unique prairie plants, but in this video I like to kind of explore that again, but also show some of the other cool features that this green space has to offer. So alright guys, let's go on an adventure.
So here's a little background about the Beaver Wildlife Area. This beautiful piece of property was once owned by the Beaver family. After 5 generations of farming, the Beaver family is leaving its Marion County farm as a prairie and oak savanna for future generations to enjoy. The story begins starting in 1913 when the great-grandfather Harvey Beaver bought the first piece of land. In 1917 he added a second piece, calling the combined property the Scioto Valley Farm. Now, when I was doing some research, I found that this was opened as the Beaver Wildlife Area probably around 2010. The property will be owned by the Forever Land Trust and subsidiary of the Pheasants Forever, and managed in cooperation with the Ohio Division of Wildlife, which will annex into the 6,000 acres of the Big Island Wildlife Area. So now that we have a little background history about this green space, you might be asking yourself, well, where in the world is this green space? Well, as you can see, it is very, very massive. It's actually about 300 acres. All that blue you see, this is from the Marion County Auditor GIS website. And yes, that is all of the Beaver Wildlife Area. So when you actually go into the GIS website and you go into the owners section, type in Pheasants Forever, there's actually the 2 properties. There is this one, and then the newest one is the John Mollet family tract, which we'll definitely be talking about in a later episode. So here's a Google Maps picture, and as you can see, the parking lot for the Beaver Wildlife Area, it sits just outside of the city limits of Marion and outside of the village of Green Camp as well. If you are going to be typing this in your address, make sure to be putting in 1946 Marion Green Camp Road, Marion, Ohio. So you're actually probably closer to the city than you are actually closer to Green Camp. So here I add a little video footage just to show you what the parking lot looks like. And as you can see, it is not blacktop or paved. It's just a little gravel parking lot. It's just right off of 739. So it could probably fit comfortably, in my opinion, probably up to about 8 cars if you park them just right. Maybe a little bit more. Now, one thing I do want to mention about the Beaver Wildlife Area. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this is a really, really great place to go out and explore in nature, again, especially during the summertime. But with being a wildlife area, what that means here in the state of Ohio, that means that you are able to go hunting, fishing, and trapping. So this area was designed for primarily pheasants and rabbits and deer, and a lot of your other open land species. So just please be cautious during those hunting seasons. You're more than welcome to come out to this place during that time, but just always be cautious that there could be hunters around. So if you are going to be exploring during the hunting season, maybe consider wearing bright clothing, hunter orange vests. Again, I just want to make sure that I give that message across. Again, I really think it's a great place, but again, just please be cautious. As you are about to embark on your adventure here at the Beaver Wildlife Area, just make sure to enjoy yourself. Take some time, look at all the local flora and fauna. You'll really will appreciate about all the cool things you can find just outside of the city of Marion limits. Now, a lot of the stuff you're going to notice right at the beginning, there are a lot of beautiful flowers. You can take time to look at them, but I will tell you there are more of those flowers further along the trail. And so if you don't want to hear the loud noise from the traffic, I recommend just keep along the trail and get further away from the road. So you'll also notice a lot of this tall white stuff. This is just white sweet clover. I don't think it's a native plant here and around our area, but as you can see, it can definitely overtake an area. So please keep in mind, with this being more of, in a way, a more preserve, that means that, poison ivy is probably going to be more abundant than some of your other parks, like in the city. So just, stay on the path, or better yet, just make sure, if you do get poison ivy, make sure you wear proper clothing, long sleeve, maybe long pants. Also too, being in a more natural area too, you will encounter more ticks. I had a prairie plant tour out here one time, and one of our participants that came had quite a few ticks on her. So, but you know what? It's being part of nature. So, just definitely enjoy, being around everything. So here are some of the cool things that I found here at the Beaver Wildlife Area.
As you can see, guys, these beautiful purple flowers right here, these are called blazing stars. Now, there's several different species of blazing stars. I will admit I'm not the best sometimes on distinguishing from one species to another. But a great way to identify it is, if you got really close to it, you'll notice the petals are almost like fingers, very hair-like. And it just looks very strange, but it has a very vibrant purple color. And as you can see, the leaves are almost, in a way, you could say fern-like. But as you can see, they grow in clumps or clusters, so that is a really great way. So if you're out in any of the prairies here in Marion County, I highly recommend probably about early to mid-July is when these guys will start blooming. And just depending on how the season goes, you may have from late July to about mid-August. And but yeah, definitely get a chance. And if you get up close too, see a lot of great pollinators taking advantage of them. Right now I see several honeybees, which yes, I know are not native to the United States, but still just shows you how a lot of these local pollinators are really depending on these prairie plants. And here we have is rattlesnake master. There's not a lot of it at this park, but in here patches here and there. But where it gets its name, rattlesnake master. So during late summer, fall time, when these flowers, when they'll produce into the seed heads, dry out, any seeds that are left over, Native Americans used to rattle it, sound like a rattlesnake, and would use it for ceremonial purposes. But a great way to identify it's got, I always say, those neat little white cotton ball looking heads. There's only one just basically around in this area that looks quite like that. But the leaves kind of remind you of sort of an aloe, but does not break and produce juice like aloe, but I always think that's what it looks like. As you see right in front of me, this is called wild bergamot, and it's probably one of the most fragrant plants out here, probably that and milkweed. But a great way to identify it. Get a leaf, rake it, smell it. Oh my goodness, it has such a very distinct smell. It's actually in the Moderna, the mint family. So this is really great if you want to deter deer and rabbits in your garden, not just your native garden or vegetable garden, something like that. But a great way to identify it, kind of like we were talking about with the blazing star, you know, how it had very unique petals. These petals are very unique too. I said this also looks like a, you ever, the medieval jokers that wear those, the joker hats? I always say that's what this kind of reminds me of. But this is also great for pollinators. I know we've been hitting that pretty hard, but so yeah, again, great for deterring deer, bringing pollinators. Native Americans actually used to use this as a natural perfume. They used to use the leaves and grab it and put it around their bodies. So yeah, so I guess if you're going on a date and you need to smell nice, and grab you some wild bergamot. So this plant right here, I bet a lot of you probably recognize it. Not just in open land prairies. You have some growing in your garden right now, or your lawn. But yes, this is purple coneflower, or echinacea. And I've been reading a lot of interesting facts, especially on the medicinal side. And the more I've read about it, it's basically, and around these parks, it's probably the most utilized plant when it comes to medicinal properties, especially in early settlement, Native American times, you know, when they were here roaming around here, Marion County. So yeah, it was just, it's fascinating because they have figured out that the seeds and different parts of the plant have basically a numbing property. And so if you were suffering from a toothache, they would use, like I said, they would use the seeds, they would boil the leaves, but a good concentration of whatever property that is in this plant is actually in the roots. They said that's where most of that stuff that will really help you out. And I was reading in my one book that the snake oils, which is the kind of the modern day salesman, I guess they used to chew a whole bunch of this plant, basically till their mouth was basically numb, or they couldn't feel anything. And so to help to promote sales, again, they would chew a bunch of this, and then they would put hot coals in their mouth on purpose, and it would show people, oh hey, this is a very powerful plant, you need to buy it. And again, I just think that's just fascinating that we did that. But just again, that the medicinal properties, and even today you do see it, and you can buy it in capsules at your local drugstore. But great way to identify within its name. It's got the fancy purple petals, very basic petals versus, you know, we've talked about bergamot, and we've talked about blazing star, which have very unique purple flowers. I know we've been talking a lot about purple flowers in this episode, but yeah, this one again is very recognizable. Again, not just in wild areas, but also in landscaping areas as well. So yeah, take advantage. You know, get a nice fragrance, and yeah, enjoy the flower. Here we have one of the mountain mints. I believe it's Virginia mountain mint, but just like the bergamot, break it, smell it. Again, has a nice fragrance to it. Again, great for deterring deer away from your garden.
They used to also use this plant as a poultice and use the leaves to help cure for headaches. They used to also help with rheumatism and other respiratory issues. Now, you can make a tea from it. I'll admit you definitely want to add some sugar or some honey to sweeten up the flavor. Here we have what's called gray-headed coneflower. This is a great plant if you want to start any type of prairie restoration, rather in a old farm field or a road ditch or anything like that. They always highly recommend to plant this first because it grows very quickly. Now, it does get a little aggressive, but throughout time, you can cut it back. Here's a cute little false sunflower. A quick little fun fact about this. Charles Robertson, which was a scientist back in 1929, documented about 30 different species of bees and numerous of other pollinating insects just on this species of flower. And here is nodding onion. As you can see, it gets its name because the flower does kind of bend over or nod over. A cool little fun fact about this, Native American tribes have used the bulbs of the nodding onion as a treatment for croup, colic, colds, and fevers. And here we have is false white indigo, also known as false dragonhead. Where it got its name was it was once used as a substitute for true indigo, which is native to southern Asia, which was used to make for a blue dye. And as you can see, those little bean-like things, those are the seed pods. So wildlife will definitely take advantage of them as winter season comes about. And this cute little flower is called the Illinois bundleflower. Cool fun fact, a lot of wildlife like this plant because it's high in protein. Also too, this plant will help to rebuild bad soil locations. Seeds are loved by many birds, including pheasants, quail, prairie chickens, and more. And this cute little sunflower is called Brown Eye Susan. Great way to identify it. It's got a very small center disc right in the middle. They only get about maybe 2 feet tall. They maybe a little bit taller. They can get a little hard to distinguish between black eye Susans as well, but black eye Susans are a little bit larger head, and within the name, it does not have much of the brown coloration on the center disc.
These big guys above me right here, talking about these guys, the one with the yellow flower, that is called compass plant. So one of the books I read, the reason why it got its name compass plant, the Native Americans, when they were trying to pick out their perfect area for their tribe, they would always stray away from this plant because they said that wherever the leaves were pointing, or it was either the leaves or the flowers were pointing, it would tell them that is where lightning would mostly strike. So now some of the name could come from somewhere else, but that's just one of my stories. But as you can see, I'm 6'5". I'm a pretty tall guy, and these guys can get pretty tall. And their leaves are really unique shape. They almost look like almost in a weird, like an oak slash fern kind of style. But just like the sunflowers that we have mentioned, they do make that nice yellow flower. So yeah, definitely check those out. Now the other guy that is next to me, unfortunately, that is teasel. So a non-native plant. As you can see, they can get pretty tall. But to show kind of the giants in the plant world around here in Marion County.
And then this cool other prairie plant I found was called cup plant. And where it gets its name from, as you can see, the leaves are pretty good size and they do kind of bend over into like a cup. There has been documents of settlers, and I imagine Native Americans would use this on a nice rainy day and use it as a cup. And this other yellow flower, I believe it's prairie rosinweed. And I know the flowers look very similar to some of our other yellow sunflowers that we've been looking at. But the way I look at it is the leaves are a little bit shorter. They're not as serrated as like cup plant. And their leaves are also very, very rough. One time I heard from somebody, they believed this was one of the prairie plants that actually fought against bison because how rough they were. Bison didn't really want to mess with them. So I thought that was a pretty cool adaptation. And this little plant is actually called French grass. Not really a grass, it's actually a legume. And it's really interesting. I actually been reading that it's very kind of almost in a way rare to very uncommon here in the state of Ohio. And there are some rare moth species that will use it as its host plant. But it's definitely one of the showy of the little legume groups. And another type of legume is this one. It's called the broadleaf sweet pea. And I have read that this plant is poisonous towards humans, but not wildlife. And here we have a beautiful royal catchfly. And this is a really great pollinator plant, not just for insects, but of course hummingbirds. As we all know that hummingbirds are very attracted to the color red. And I actually have done some reading that a lot of insects cannot register the color red. Certain ones can, such as butterflies and certain moth species, but a lot of other insects can't. So some scientists think that this flower more co-evolved with hummingbirds than it did actual insect species. But again, just gorgeous.
And then these little guys back here, this is sawtooth sunflower, a very, very common prairie plant here in Marion County. And these guys are just sprouting out. And I know they're several feet tall, but they will not be producing their flowers until probably late August to early September. But they are very, very beautiful. If you ever get a chance, not just here, Tallgrass Trail around the lake, of course, Beaver Wildlife Area, and I've even seen it in ditches right across Menard. So you don't really have to travel very far to find this beautiful native sunflower species in our county.
And here we have a showy tick trefoil. So where it gets its name from, the little seeds almost look like a tick. And that's how they spread. They attach to mammals and, of course, people. And I've had the great privilege of having a bunch of their seeds all over my shirt and my pants. And definitely is a way how you see how they disperse.
And, of course, when you're out here, definitely check out the milkweed. Being a open land prairie plant, of course, you're going to have milkweed, and we also know about when you find milkweed, you definitely got to find monarchs. So look under the leaf, look in the flower, sometimes the stem or the stalk of the plant, not often, but that's a good spot to find the monarch caterpillar, or the egg, I should say. Now, kind of speaking of monarchs, I have not been here during the monarch migration season, and I would imagine this would be a pretty good hotspot here in Marion County to see a lot of the monarchs migrating, because again, being a prairie area, there's still a lot of prairie plants, because a lot of people just think that monarchs only need milkweed. Now, yes, it needs to help complete the life cycle, but once the monarch is in the adult or butterfly stage, a lot of people do not realize that monarchs do prefer other plants, especially like Joe Pye weed and the asters. Those are really, really favorable nectar-bearing plants that the monarchs just love. So I haven't found any spotted Joe Pye weed yet, but last year I did. But again, you come out here in the early fall, look for monarchs. Now back to the milkweed. Again, common milkweed, which this one you see right here. There's Sullivan's, which look very identical. If I find one, I'll show you. But further along the tree line, there is the swamp milkweed. So there's at least 3 different species of milkweed here at the Beaver Wildlife Area. Remember that Joe Pye weed I was talking about earlier? I found it. It's just not in bloom yet. I mean, the blooms are just coming out. I came out here probably about mid-August or so. I bet this thing would be nice and full in bloom. But this is what I was talking about. If you got monarchs definitely love this nectar-bearing plant.
And here we have its New England aster. This is a late summer fall plant. This is a great nectar-bearing plant for our monarchs, especially during the migration season.
Here I have is a big blue stem. The greatest way to identify it is it kind of reminds you of a dinosaur foot or a turkey's foot. Actually, that's the nickname. It's actually called as turkey's foot. But its size within the name, big blue stem, does get pretty good size, and it's one of the native grasses that grow here in the United States and in the state of Ohio. So I'll kind of give you an idea of the flower. So here we have is Indian grass, another warm season. As you can see, is just in peak. It has a beautiful kind of orangish red color. If you go to the John Mollett Family Equestration Track, there's a whole field of it. Very, very gorgeous. But instead of having the kind of a turkey's foot, it's just more erect. But instead of having, again, that blue color is more of the reddish orange color with a hint of yellow.
And here we have some remnants of some spiderworts. They were out in June, probably early July. Blooms are done now, but you can see they're leftover seed pods. Woo, I'll tell you what, it was a hot day, about 100 degrees. But you know what? As we saw on our trip, we've seen a lot of fun, cool wildflowers, but we're not quite done yet. Just want to show you just a couple more things, and then we'll be wrapping some things up.
If you were here last year, a good chunk of this portion of the prairie was gone. They did a prescribed burn, which you need to do if you want to keep a prairie a prairie. If not, over time, they didn't do the prescribed burn, that prairie would have turned into a forest like this. But would take many years. Again, a good old thing called succession. So as you can see, you still really can't tell there was much of a prescribed burn. A lot of these prairie plants really need fire to thrive, and because fire produces a lot of nitrogen, and these prairie plants, it's actually interesting. You can do a prescribed burn, and within at least a week or so, depending on the plant species, sometimes some things will at least start to sprout back up. So just because you do a prescribed burn doesn't mean it will destroy all life. It just helps renew it. So, but yeah, just want to kind of point that out.
So we have made it right to our ending destination. Now, I know at the beginning I said this place is about 300 acres. And again, I know I could have kept going on and on and on. But this is probably about where the most of the Moe Trail is. If you feel adventurous, if you want to go through some taller grass, I did one time. But just keep in mind, you may get a lot of ticks, may run into a little bit more poison ivy. But again, sometimes you can find some of your greatest nature discoveries in those kinds of environments. So I was really happy just to find all the flowers just in our short little walk. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but on my watch, I kind of calculated it from the trailhead parking lot to this exact spot is about 0.56 miles. So there and back, you're getting over a little mile hike. So I know I've been talking a lot about the prairie plants about this episode because I mean that's the highlight of this episode. But of course, you know, talking about some of the wildlife, you know, we talked about at the beginning being a wildlife area. We talked about, you know, deer and rabbit and pheasants. But if you're a birder like me, if you go to the Ohio birding hotspots and you can type in Beaver Wildlife Area, or just Google in Ohio birding hotspots, Marion County, Beaver Wildlife Area, and then you click on the little tab, will say 81 species. You'll click there and it'll show you a general list of all the different species of birds that people have found throughout the years. And I won't go over all 81 species, but it gives you a general idea. Just most of your open land species: northern harriers, shorter owls, savanna sparrows, grasshopper sparrows would be an example of what you'll find.
Well, everyone, I hope you enjoy this episode of Marion's Green Acres. I know in the past we've talked about the Beaver Wildlife Area, but I hope after today's episode you really gain an appreciation about all the unique plants, prairie plants especially, that grow in this area. This is probably my most favorite spot in the summertime. And I know I've always mentioned before, Myers Woods is definitely my favorite park in Marion. So make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Marion County Park District. You know, we do all of our other videos. We have Marion's Nature Discoveries and Natural Lessons. Of course, like right now, Marion's Green Acres and all kinds of stuff. Make sure to also like and subscribe to all of our other social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That way you can keep up to date with our programs and family events that are coming up. Alright guys, well again, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Have fun, be safe, and most of all, go out and explore your Marion County parks. I'm Naturalist James Anderson, and thanks for watching Marion's Green Acres. Goodbye everybody! are you? That's good. Oh, in a prairie. Yep. That was the museum. What? Oh, filming. Hold on. There we go. Oh, the Ark. How was that? Hot? Yeah. It is a hot one. Did you have fun?
Are you drinking a lot?
Am I what?
Are you drinking a lot?
Yeah.